What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the First Half Sports Podcast. This is your boy Brad, aka the Big Mocha, and I'm here with my boy
Jaden, aka Jaden Props.
And we got a fantastic episode, so let's hop right into it. So coming up first, we got to talk about what's next for the Dallas Cowboys. As you know, on Saturday, was it Saturday they played, right? Yes, Saturday they played.
Yeah.
They lost to the Packers. They got dismantled by the Green Bay Packers in the first round of the playoffs. They were at home. They've been undefeated at home for the past 2 years. They look like they just weren't ready to play as a team. What's next for the Dallas Cowboys, Jaden? What do you feel is next for them? What do you think they should do going forward?
I think the first thing that should be done is definitely getting rid of McCarthy, because at this point, it's just getting comical. I mean, they get to the playoffs, the lights go shine right onto them, and they crumble like a cookie every single time. I don't know what you do with Dak. What are you thinking? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, they've been 1-3 since in the postseason under McCarthy. They haven't made it past the second round. I mean, granted, they haven't made it past the second round in 30 years. But I think honestly, and I wish that we had the episode go up yesterday because we had a little bit of technical difficulties and we couldn't upload yesterday's episode. But I went on. I'm not trying to pull my own string here, but I went on a pretty good rant about what I think the Cowboys should do, and I'm gonna go on a little bit of one of again. Jerry Jones needs to sell the Dallas Cowboys. I think honestly, he right now is the owner of a $9 billion glorified trash can. The Cowboys haven't won anything in 30 years. They're somehow still America's team. I don't know how the New England Patriots aren't considered America's team when the Cowboys have done nothing. They're just I'll give Jerry Jones one thing. He's the most amazing advertiser and the best marketing guy in the world. I'll tell you that. There's nobody, I don't think anybody can beat him. But he needs to sell the team. New owners need to come in. They need to get rid of McCarthy. They need to get rid of Dak, and they need to change the whole Dallas Cowboys aura about themselves. They got to start from the ground up. They got to do something, but it's got to start with the owner because Jerry is toxic for that environment. And that environment is toxic for Jerry, and Jerry, they got to separate. They got to separate. That's what I think. Honestly, Jerry Jones needs to sell the Dallas Cowboys. That's what I say.
A couple years on to his life.
Yeah, right. He's definitely going to get some sanity back. I feel like he's probably gone insane the past 20 years watching these Cowboys play and do the same thing over and over again. He can yell so much. He can pay so many people so much dollars, but the one thing he can't do is put those pads on and hit stick somebody, you know. So he's doing everything he can, and it just isn't working. So I think he should sell the team. But on a more realistic note, I guess I should say, because I really don't think that Jerry Jones is going to be selling the Dallas Cowboys. They got to get rid of McCarthy. He's had the back-to-back 12-win seasons, but it's gotten them absolutely nowhere. They haven't gotten out of the second round. And honestly, I wouldn't be saying they should fire McCarthy, but the only reason I am saying fire McCarthy is because of the coaching candidates that are out there this offseason. The coaching pool that's out there that's only going to get bigger as more teams fire more coaches and more bad things happen. The coaching pool right now is too good to just kind of stick with Mike McCarthy. You got Bill Belichick out there. You got Harbaugh out there coming from Michigan. You got Mike Vrabel. That's just three names off the top of my head. That's, you know what I'm saying, that are going to be out there for coaching candidacies. And with a talented roster like Dallas, you got to change. You got to bring in new coaching. You got to bring in new energy. You got to bring in something new that can get the job done. Bill Belichick, even though I don't think he could work well with Jerry Jones, he's probably going to be the best option. To be honest with you, Bill, if Mike Tomlin steps away from the Steelers, maybe I've been hearing rumblings about that. Mike Tomlin could be a good option, but you gotta get rid of McCarthy. You definitely don't extend Dak. You don't. He's not that guy. Honestly, I hate to say it.
He's definitely not.
You could maybe trade him to one of the teams that have a higher draft pick, and maybe try to get a QB out of that. Trade him to the Patriots, trade him to the Commanders. Do something with the Bears if the Bears, you know what I'm saying. If the Bears are thinking about getting rid of Justin, something along the lines of that. I think you should go in there, start fresh, get rid of McCarthy. Dak is out of there next year. Jerry, sell the team.
Yeah. I mean, now that you bring up that Belichick, because we all know that Jerry Jones will do anything. He'll pay any amount of money to get a ring. I'm having a feeling that Belichick's going to land up over in Dallas next season.
That I mean, hey, that could be, and to be honest with you, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the show in a couple minutes on where he's more likely to land in this off season, where he's more likely to go, what's going to happen with him. But before then, I do want to shed some light on over to your side of the table, your side of the sports world. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jaden, they came out and they mollywop the Eagles. You know what I'm saying? They're set to play Detroit next week for the divisional round at Ford Field. And they're looking really hot. They came out and beat the Eagles 32-9. Baker Mayfield at 337 yards, 3 touchdown passes. How did you feel about that game? I know you watched it last night. I know you did. So you got to tell me how you felt about it.
Oh, of course. I loved it. I mean, yes, the Eagles are literally dead last in passing, like giving up passing yards. Just everything wide receiver wise, they're dead last in. So we definitely did a great job. Because if Baker would have ended up doing horrible against the worst pass defense in the league, I mean, come on. It's getting me a lot to like the guy. But I mean, how can you not like him after that? Come on. I know you're not a big Baker guy. I
I'm
know
not a
you're
big
not.
Baker guy. I'm really not. I don't know what it is
I know
about
you're
him.
not.
He's like I'm not gonna I don't know how to compare. I just don't like he's got his moments, but he's not it. He's not the quarterback. You know what I'm
I'd
saying?
say
He's
the
good.
best word for Baker is probably inconsistent. I'd say that's probably the best word for him because he just one game, like today or last night, he threw 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. The next game, he's gonna come out 0 touchdowns and he's gonna. So that's just the problem with Baker.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Very inconsistent. I mean, his whole career, just not even his play, but his whole career has been inconsistent. You got to think the amount of offensive coordinators he's had, the amount of teams he's been on, the amount of coaching changes, the amount of changes just around Baker has been very inconsistent. So he's had inconsistence, a very good word to describe his whole football career. But yeah, do you think
I'm
you got them? What's up?
Oh no, I was just saying I'm most impressed with the way that we were able to stop the run. They had a combination of 42 rushing yards last night, and that's how the Eagles win games. They got the best O-line. They sit there, they chew the clock up, they run the whole time, they run it down your throat, and they also did that tush push. We ended up stopping the world famous
Yes.
tush push on the goal line. So that was
The,
massive. So I was
the
very happy with the way that we were able to stop their defense.
the NFL's potential last tush push because they're thinking about banning that next season. So that could be you guys could have stopped the very last tush push. And also, Jason Kelsey announced his retirement as well after the game last night. So definitely going to be a big off season for Philadelphia, big off season for the Eagles. And we're going to keep track of that. We're going to see how that lands. They were very, very, very disappointing to close out the season. I mean, if you remember, they started off the season 10-1. They were the hottest team in the NFL. Everybody was thinking they were unstoppable. Nobody could touch them. And then since going 10-1 on that last 7-game stretch, including the playoff game against the Bucks, they went 1-6. They lost to the
Yeah.
49ers, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Giants, and then of course last night the Bucks. So what do you blame for the Eagles' downfall? What do you blame? Who do you think if you had to point the finger at somebody, who do you pointing that finger at?
I don't know. I
Over
mean,
here. Oh,
there
we
was
can't
just
we
a
can't hear
ton of
you.
injuries. You got me now?
Okay, all right, yeah, we can hear you. So sorry about that. Go on. What were you saying? Who do you
No,
blame
you're
for
good.
last
You're
night?
good. I mean, we can just start out with the injuries. I mean, they didn't have AJ Brown. They didn't have a couple people on the defensive side. Julio Jones ended up going out literally in the beginning of the second quarter. Jalen Hurts had a dislocated finger. They weren't able to run the ball. Everyone just definitely was not on the stage. They weren't meshing correctly. So, I mean, I think it was kind of just like a whole team thing. They just weren't. No one would look like they were on the same page besides Smith and Hurts. I mean, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, just Devontae Smith had what 168 yards or something like that last night. So he did,
Yeah.
he
He
he,
dropped
he
the
did what
170 bomb on us.
Yeah, so he did what he needed to do last night for sure, but the rest of the team didn't, and they just looked they didn't look ready to play. They didn't look no, I'm not gonna say not ready to play. They didn't look like they wanted to play. They didn't really look like they wanted to play, whether or not it would have been it's for Jalen Hurts or if it was for Sirianni or if it was for Matt Patricia. They just didn't look like they wanted to play. They didn't look like they really wanted to be there. They kind of They look like they were just there. You know what I'm saying? They were just lucky to be there, and they didn't really do what they should have. They definitely. I think. Oh, actually, you want to know what? This is a good question right here because now that I think about it, I don't know between the Eagles and the Cowboys, Jaden. Who do you think had a more disappointing end to their season?
Um, I'd probably have to go with the Cowboys, just because I mean we all went into that game expecting that the Cowboys were just going to destroy the Packers, and we also everyone's like, oh, the Cowboys have the best defense. The Cowboys are probably the best team in the league. The Eagles just the last half of their season has just been garbage. They have a garbage pass defense. A lot of people thought the Bucks were going to win. I'd say Dallas was definitely a bigger disappointment. I don't know about you, but that was a big
Now,
disappointment.
I agree. As much as I want to say Dallas as well too, I kind of am leaning a little bit more towards Philly on this one for as far as a bigger
Okay.
disappointment goes. Because I mean, they were in the Super Bowl last year. They started off this season 10-1. Jalen Hurts was MVP top candidate in everybody's book, and then they got destroyed by the 49ers, who, as you know, is one of the other best teams in the NFL. Who's someone they would have had to play to get to the Super Bowl again, a team they beat last year to get to the Super Bowl. They just got absolutely mollywopped by them. Then they go back, get blown out by Dallas. They allow the Seahawks and Drew Lock to score to have a game-winning drive against them. They lose to the Cardinals. They lose to the Giants, and just what an awful game that was. And then they come up and lose to the Bucks. They didn't show any signs of life after that 49ers game. It seemed like the 49ers kind of killed them. You know what I'm saying? It really seems like the 49ers took the spirit out
Yeah.
of them, and they just didn't have any fight. They didn't want to do anything differently. Their defense, nobody was tackling. That tackling is the worst tackling I've ever seen from an NFL team in my life, to be honest with you. I mean, you would
Awful.
have.
It's awful.
I mean, they barely even like put hands on people. I just saw them running. They weren't getting leverage. They were flopping on the field. They were running into each other. You saw the two DBs run into each other in the middle of the field.
Listen, Tompkins, the guy on our team, he's 5'8", and he's 160 pounds or 150 pounds, and he was breaking tackles left and right. So that's the first problem right there. That should not be happening. Should not be happening.
Yeah, no, you should not be. Yeah, that's the one of the first things about football is tackling. That's half the reason why people play football is to tackle people and beat up on people. So, I mean, that's just something you have to do, and that goes all the way. That goes up to coaching. I mean, you got to think about it. They hired their defensive coordinator halfway through the season, brought on Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia did absolutely nothing for them on the defensive side of it, if not, made them worse. It seemed like the players were checked out. They didn't really have any not respect as well, but they didn't really have the gumption to play for Sirianni towards the later half of the season. It kind of seemed like they were checked out. They weren't really listening, paying attention to anything he had to say. Which I mean, it could be a big problem in Philly in the offseason. Big decisions to make, definitely. If you're the owner of the Eagles right now, Jaden, what are you doing? Are you because you can't get rid of Jalen Hurts because I mean, you got signed him to that big contract last season. You just lost Jason Kelsey. Um, you're probably going to be losing a couple more players and stuff in the offseason as well. I mean, what do you do? What do you do moving forward right now if you're the Eagles?
Well, the first thing is firing the new defensive coordinator they got because they got rid of the old one, and it's not looking. I mean, their defense is literally best to one of the worst in the span of a year. So, I mean, the first thing is getting rid of defensive players or just the defensive coordinator. That's the first step. Offensive wise, I don't really know if you have a problem offensive wise. I know everyone was banged up at the end of the year, but I mean, pretty much all the offensive players on that team are good. I mean, Smith, AJ Brown are both literally wide receiver ones on any team you put them on. DeAndre Swift's a good back. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I mean, they got the best O line in the league. I think it's the defense that's the problem. I mean, yes, they only did score 9 points against the Bucks, but they gave up 32. So yeah, I'd say it's the defense.
Yeah, it's troubling. Even though you may put up 9, but yeah, giving up 32 is atrocious. But I mean that offense, it just they didn't seem like the same offense. You know what I'm saying? They even
Yeah,
the whole
no,
entire
they
year,
didn't.
Jalen Hurts was saying himself. Everybody was saying that they just don't look like the same Eagles team. They were managing to come out with wins. They were managing to beat, the Chiefs. They were managing to beat all these other teams, but they just didn't look like the same Eagles, and it really kind of came and bit them in the butt. That second or that last third stretch of the season, that last 7 games, it really, really came and showed. And whatever you don't coach, you condone. So they didn't bother fixing any of the issues that they said that they needed to fix throughout the season. It didn't, and it just didn't come up to them, and it came to bit them in the rear end at the end of the season. So it's a little bit on them. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of that's why I think it's a little bit different than the Dallas season, because I mean every year the Cowboys do that. You know what I'm saying? Every year they always have 12 wins, 13 wins. They go to the playoffs. They talk the whole season, Super Bowl this, Super Bowl that, and then they're out immediately. So I mean, you kind of comically, you kind of come to expect it from the Cowboys now. But the Eagles, after last season, after last Super Bowl, and the way they started this season, it was just that's why I think it's that bigger disappointment than Dallas, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
with that disappointing season for both of those teams, if, and this is a big if as well, because we don't know, we haven't heard any word or anything like that, if they decide to part ways with their head coaches, if the Eagles decide to get rid of Sirianni, Cowboys decide to go after Mike McCarthy, who do you think wins the bidding war for Belichick? Because I mean, he's in this offseason, as far as the coaching pool goes and all the candidates and stuff like that, he's definitely I would personally think he's definitely the number one priority on a lot of people's list. And so do you think he's better off in Dallas? Do you think he's better off in Philly if those two teams were to pursue him?
Now, personally, I think he fits Philly's play style a lot more. The more reasonable thing, I think he's going to go to Dallas just because his contract is massive, and Jerry Jones is just that one guy that's going to pay anything to get a ring. But like Belichick, the Eagles could sit there, they could run down your throat, they could eat the clock up, they could play good defense, and that's just kind of like Belichick ball right there. But I don't know if I see him going to the Eagles.
We lost you for a second, Jaden.
Oh, all right. So, I think the Cowboys. You hear me now?
We lost. You said the Cowboys. Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. All right. The Cowboys. I think I see him going to the Cowboys more over in Philly better, just because they can run the ball down your throat, they can eat the clock up, and they could play defense, and that's just kind of like what Belichick did on the Patriots. But I see him going to Dallas over Philly just because Jerry Jones will literally pay anything to get a ring.
Yeah, I do agree with you that I think Philly plays in his style a little bit more. They do have a bad defense, and he's a defensive coach. He's one of the best defensive minds to ever not play the game, but coach the game. Excuse me. So I definitely see both options are suitable. I really, though, if anything, I could see him going to Philly more than Dallas. It's a little bit closer to, the New England area, because, he's been there the last 24, 25 years of his life. So all he knows is New England. I don't really see him and Jerry fitting as much, because, Bill doesn't really like to talk. He 3 words at a press conference and he's done, but Jerry will talk for years and years and years and years like he has been doing. So I don't think Jerry's going to give Bill the total control that he needs either. Or excuse me, not needs, but wants, I should say. Because, at this point, but he had all the power in New England for 24 years. So I don't really see him just coming off of that like that if he goes to, Dallas or Philly or something like that. But the one reason why I would have him going to Dallas would be having the most immediate success, because you got to think he's 15 wins away from Don Shula's record. He's 72 years old. He's not getting any younger, obviously, so he's trying to do what he wants to do relatively fast. And I think the Cowboys suit him up for a better run to the Super Bowl and a better immediate success than the Eagles do. Jason Kelce retiring, so you have a bunch of you're going to lose a bunch of players, so you're going to have to do a little bit more of a rebuild in Philly than you would Dallas, I feel like. So I think that would be the reason he would go to Dallas, would be for the more immediate success.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we moving on to tonight's picks today because we just had our NFL section of the show, but now we're moving on to the picks. We're gonna wind down with everybody's favorite locks today. So Jaden, it's a small slate today. I know I honestly don't really have anything up right now. I may cook something up in a little bit, but as of right now, I don't have anything. But I know you got something. So what are your locks for today?
Before I say my locks, did you see that there was a SGA taco at 25.5 that I was thinking about it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna sprinkle it with anything or not, but he's up for
I did not see that.
25.5
So
against the Clippers.
I did not see that, so I might go take a look at that later. But yeah,
Yes, sir. I was just letting you know if you didn't peep it yet. But
yeah. No, I
anyways,
forgot it was Tuesday. To be
I
honest with
got
you, I
just
keep
one
thinking
play
today's
for
Monday.
today. Like you said, it's a small. Yeah, these days come by fast. But I just got one play for today. Like you said, it's a small slate. I'm going with Kawhi Leonard over 7 rebounds. Now the books have him at 7.5, and Underdog, Sleeper, Chalkboard, they all have him at 7.5. So I just took it on Prize Picks just in case for a push cushion. Um, he's going against OKC, which gives up 9 boards a game to forwards, and Avicii Zubac, their center. He's not even playing tonight. So you already know OKC plays a ton of small ball. They give up a lot of rebounds. Kawhi's going to have to be the main rebounder. So I could easily see him getting a double-double tonight. So that's my first pick. And then my next one is KD, Kevin Durant. I got him at 26.5 points. Now, he's already been bumped to 27. I would still take it at 27, possibly even
Mm-hmm.
27.5 because I think it might be bumped one more time. But KD's going against the Kings, and the Kings one of the worst forward defenses in the league. They give up 24 plus points a game to forwards, and KD has hit this number as us 8 times against them. And KD usually just tends to let his teammates do good, but the Kings are just a team that's they're a fast paced team up and down the court. They're going to be keeping the game close, or they're going to be ahead. So I like him to just sit back and just hit his nice little mid range jumpers throughout the whole game. I think he clears pretty easily. I think Kawhi clears pretty easily too. Even though the slate's not that good, I ended up finding 2 picks I really like. So that's probably all I'm
Nice,
going to
nice.
go with for today.
Yeah, and talking about OKC playing small ball, I mean, you got their center Chet Holmgren. He's a 7 foot beast, and he barely even gets like 5 rebounds a game half the time. So I mean,
Yeah.
they're a good team, but they're not a good rebounding team, and it's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah, it is. I thought it would change, after having like Williams and Chet and just some other big bodies thrown in there this year, but they're still like one of the worst rebounding teams. So every time I get a good matchup against them,
Yeah,
I'm taking the rebounds.
you'd think Chet would be grabbing like 10, 15 boards a game. Like, I mean, the fact that I mean, granted, the NBA is a lot more difficult than I know because I've never played a game in the NBA, but you think these dudes that are 7'2", 7'3", 7'4" can just grab boards, but hey, maybe it's a little bit more complicated than that, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm not
Hey,
in the NBA. That's
yeah.
why I'm sitting at my desk right now talking about the NBA. You know what I'm saying? but
Yes, sir.
but no, I do like those locks. I think that's definitely cash tonight. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a short little episode that we have today, but we are going to bring you another one. We'll see you again on in a couple of days. We'll see you again either tomorrow or Thursday when we post another episode. But we want to thank you for tuning into this episode of First Half Sports Pod. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter. Let us know if you're tailing any of our plays. Make sure if you're putting up any of your plays yourself, let us know what you're running today, whether it not be on Prize Pick, Sleeper. Make sure you follow us. Everything will be down in the description below. But other than that, Jane, you got any final words for us?
Nah, I don't. I'll see you guys on the next episode.